Well, it's time now for a look through the day's papers, and I'm joined again by Allison Sargent for the press review. Allison, you're still looking at those reactions in the U.S. to the school shooting at that elementary school in Texas.
Yeah, Aaron, we can start this time with what's a really striking front page from the local paper, the Uvalde Leader News. A photo of it was tweeted out by an NBC journalist. You see it's just black with the date of the shooting, May 24th, 2022, a date that from now on, of course, is going to be engraved in the minds of everyone in that community. This paper seems to publish just a couple of times a week, so this is, I believe, the first edition that they have published since the shooting took place. Meanwhile, we see photos and the names of 17 of the 21 victims on the front page of the New York Times today. The paper calls them the faces of a town's overwhelming loss. The paper describes Uvalde as a close-knit Mexican-American ranching town where, quote, lives are braided together by generations of friendship and marriage. The victims included two sets of 10-year-old cousins. Many papers are also focusing today on the two teachers who were killed, Eva Morales and Irma Garcia. Garcia is the one that we see pictured here in the Washington Post. Their family members were told by officials that they died trying to shield their students. Garcia's nephew told the paper they weren't just her students, these were her kids. She lost her life to protect them. That's the type of person she was.
And Allison, U.S. media are reporting that this shooting was able to happen despite the school having strong security measures, which is all the more important, I think, because Republicans have been calling for more guns to be given to teachers.
Yeah, many politicians who oppose gun restrictions argue that tighter school security and things like giving guns to teachers can solve the problem. But NBC News reports that the Uvalde School District actually had a very extensive safety plan. They had doubled their security budget in recent years, and the measures included their own police force and a requirement that teachers lock their classroom doors. NBC does point out that it's unclear how those measures were being enforced and that the investigation is, of course, in its early stages. AP, though, has reported that once the shooter was inside the building, police waited so long to confront him that onlookers started to urge them to go inside. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is staunchly opposed to stricter gun laws. He kind of fits that profile of Republicans we were talking about. And he was confronted on Wednesday during a press conference by Democrat Beto O'Rourke, who's running to try and unseat him this fall. A political reporter for the Houston Chronicle writes that the fierce public display of hostility between them marks the new era of Texas politics that we've sort of been seeing over the past 6 years or so. It's characterized by Democrats making these political gains and then Republicans who are in power becoming more and more aggressive on issues like guns, abortions, and also gay rights.
All right, Allison, and even in the wake of this, speaking of more aggressive, America's gun lobby, the NRA, is going to cynically move forward with its annual convention that starts Friday and in, of all places, in Texas.
Exactly. It's being held in Houston, just a 4-hour drive from where this shooting took place. We read in the Houston Chronicle that there are multiple protests being planned, and as we see, former President Donald Trump is going to be one of the event's headliners. Many papers are pointing out that, strangely, guns will actually be banned at the event during his speech. So sometimes the NRA is willing to ban guns, not all the time. Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Texas Senator Ted Cruz are also scheduled to speak at the NRA event. In this cartoon by Matt Worker for Politico, we see Ted Cruz and Donald Trump arriving at the convention. Cruz, though, saying, watch your step, because you'll notice they have to tiptoe over all of the blood and bullets that are littering the ground.
Bleak, indeed, Allison. Let's change gears then to the UK, where politicians are facing a criticism over another type of disregard for human life. This after the release of that long-awaited report into those parties during lockdown at 10 Downing Street.
Many papers describe Sue Gray's report as damning today. It describes staff vomiting, getting into fistfights, spilling wine on the walls. All of this, of course, as the rest of the country was making sacrifices under strict lockdown, and people were also dying of COVID. The Northern Echo, a paper from the north of England, has the strongest front page today. They quote a Labour MP who asked Boris Johnson how he sleeps at night with, quote, blood on your filthy, privileged privileged hands. A very different picture, though, if you look at the conservative tabloids. The Daily Mail is asking, is that it? They describe this report as an innocuous of photos of Johnson with juice and sandwiches. They say it fails to show that he knowingly broke the rules. The Times, which is also a conservative paper, is more critical, though. They write in their editorial that the report brings shame on Johnson's administration. Most unforgivably, in their eyes, is the findings of their rudeness to the cleaning and security staff. Still, the paper doesn't believe that this is going to be a fatal blow for Boris Johnson. Johnson said it was time to move on to other priorities, and that seems to be the government's plan. In this cartoon by Peter Brooks for The Times, we see the Sue Gray report being thrown into the trash along with all of the other vestiges of their parties.
Those images certainly don't look like something that you would expect out of the seat of a government, but hey. Finally, from you, Allison, you've got a science story related to COVID-19 and how it can change the sense of smell.
After having COVID, Aaron, some people end up with a condition called parosmia, where things that used to smell good start to disgust them. We read in The Guardian that researchers say they found one key molecule that can trigger it. You see it there. It's found in coffee. And most people say it smells like coffee or popcorn. But for people with parosmia, it smells disgusting or dirty. Now, researchers still have a ways to go in understanding this condition. But you could say there's sort of an upside, and that's that some things that usually would smell bad actually can smell good to people that have this. For example, people with the condition described poop as smelling not unpleasant and biscuity.
I'm not sure if that's a good thing, Allison.
It depends on the biscuit.
Yeah. Allison Sargent, thank you very much. Well, that is all for this